fitness of things that the DT, the NADT regional campus Lucknow thought it proper that we should focus on good health methods and practices. And so for that, this course has been organized. Invite my additional director, Mr. Jainath Verma, to speak a few words. Invite our AG sir to address the gathering here.
Respected ADG sir, respected Arvind Mishra sir, और डॉक्टर सरला मैडम, हमारे लिए बहुत सौभाग्य की बात है कि आज हमारे बीच आप अपने व्यस्तम समय से समय निकाल करके उपस्थित हुई हैं। हमारे जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं उनके लिए एक बहुत अच्छा अवसर है ये जानने के लिए कि वो अपने हेल्थ को कैसे मैनेज करें। एज ए प्रिवेंटिव मेजर क्या उनको करना चाहिए कि उनका हेल्थ बहुत अच्छा रहे। मैडम सरला जी जो मिलेट्स कैसे मोटे अनाज का कैसे हम अपने जीवन में उपयोग करें, जो ये ताकि हमारा हेल्थ अच्छा रहे, इस फील्ड के एक्सपर्ट हैं। तो हमारे जितने भी श्रोतागण हैं मैं उनसे गुजारिश करूंगा कि आज उनके लिए एक बहुत ही अच्छा मौका है कि वो डॉक्टर सरला जी को अच्छे से सुने। और उनके घर में, सबके घरों में देखेंगे कि मोटा अनाज होता है, लेकिन हम उसको कहीं ना कहीं ये सोचते हैं कि ये बेकार चीज़ है, मैदे से बने हुए सामान या बहुत महीन पिसा हुआ गेहूं का आटा हम यूज करना प्रेफर करना ज़्यादा अच्छा लगता है। लेकिन हमारे पुराने जो आयुर्वेद है उसमें मोटे अनाज के बारे में बहुत कुछ कहा गया है कि मोटे अनाज को यूज करने से आपका सेहत, स्पेशली डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम आपका ठीक रहता है। और अगर आपका डाइजेशन सही है तो आपका हेल्थ अपने ऑटोमेटिकली आपका सही होगा। हेल्थ सही होगा तो आप ऑफिस में अच्छा काम कर पाएंगे। निश्चित रूप से हमारे लिए एक गोल्डन अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि हम मैम को अच्छे से सुने और जिसके मन में जो क्वेरीज हैं इसके लिए अलग से कोई बहुत प्रयास करने की जरूरत नहीं है। घरों में, सबके घर में मोटे अनाज उपलब्ध है, जौ है, चना है, लेकिन हम उसको यूज नहीं कर पाते हैं क्योंकि वो हमें स्वादिष्ट नहीं लगता है। उसको हम कैसे एक स्वादिष्ट रूप में उसका कैसे हम यूज करें और अपने रूटीन में लाएं ताकि हमारा हेल्थ अच्छा हो, इसी टॉपिक को समेटते हुए आज अरविंद मिश्रा सर ने एक कोर्स को प्लान किया है। सर आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आज यूपी ईस्ट के हमारे अधिकारियों कर्मचारियों के लिए आपने ऐसा यूनिक कोर्स प्लान किया है। अब बहुत समय, चूंकि वैसे भी टाइम बहुत लेट हो गया है, मैं समय नहीं लूंगा और एडीजी सर से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ सर कोर्स का इनॉग्रेशन करें। थैंक यू।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद जयनाथ। I once again welcome all the participants who have joined us on this one-day seminar and discussion and course. It is a very, very relevant and hot topic nowadays, the food that we eat. Friends, even हमारे घर में देर आर 3 generations. हमारे बच्चे जो 20-21 साल के हैं, माई सेल्फ एंड माई पेरेंट्स, हर एक का थॉट प्रोसेस अलग है। जैसा अभी जयनाथ ने बोला, बच्चे दे गो फॉर वाइट थिंग्स। ब्रेड भी खानी है तो बिल्कुल प्योर मैदे वाली ब्रेड खानी है। एनीथिंग विच इज वाइट एंड विच इज ऑफ मैदा, दे लव इट। हम लोग कहीं बीच में हैं बिकॉज वी आर मिडिल एजेड, एंड माई पेरेंट्स, दे आर एक्चुअली दैट ओल्ड स्कूल ऑफ थॉट कि हमें क्या खाना है, कैसे खाना है। आई डोंट नो, जब हम छोटे थे, बचपन में थे, आई रिमेंबर वन इंस्टेंस ऑफ माइन. I must be in the school in class, you can say 8th, 9th, 9th, 10th, and my mama ji was there at my home, and he was telling his dietary habits which he has changed over the past 1 or 2 months. And I said at that time, अरे मामा जी, जब तक सब्जी में ऊपर तेल नहीं तैरता है तब तक सब्जी खाने में मजा आता है क्या? I hope, Madam Sarla, you can follow a little bit of Hindi that we are.
Yes, I can understand Hindi. No problem.
You can understand. तो जब तक तेल नहीं होता है तब तक खाने में मजा आता है क्या? तो this kind of thought process is there when I was a kid. I have changed over the years, trying to be healthy. I think my body demands so as of now, because if I indulge myself anywhere which is a little bit less healthy, that has an effect on my mood, my body, and everything that I can talk of. और पेट स्वस्थ है, जैसा जयनाथ ने कहा, if your guts are healthy, मेरा मानना है if guts are healthy, 95% of the things are taken care of.
Exactly.
So today's session is a very, very relevant session. I hope, dear friends, we all will definitely take home something and try to change our habits accordingly. At least मेरा मानना है कि जब हम कोई भी अच्छी चीज जिंदगी में सुनते हैं, किसी भी फील्ड ऑफ थॉट की हो, अच्छी चीज सुनते हैं तो बैक ऑफ द माइंड में वो सबकॉन्शियस माइंड में रहता है, एंड व्हेन टाइम कम्स तो वो थॉट प्रोसेस में आता है कि यार ये सुना हुआ है, ये ऐसा है. तो आई होप इवन हमारे जो यंगर फैमिली मेंबर्स हैं जो ऑनलाइन जुड़े हुए हैं, हु आर यंग in the department, they as of now may not agree, those who are in their 20s and early 30s, but ये सुनते हैं तो बैक ऑफ द माइंड रहता है, एंड वी में विद टाइम, समय की पुकार होती है, समय की पुकार के साथ चलना चाहिए. जब बचपन है तो हम नहीं कहेंगे कि आप सात्विक जिंदगी जिए, वो उसका जिंदगी जीने का अलग मौका है, बट ये पता होना चाहिए. तो अरुण मिश्रा सर, thanks a lot to you and your team, and I once again welcome Dr. Sarala for having accepted our invitation and enlighten us about the millets and food habits in general. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your guidance. और हमारे संस्थान में भी हम लोग हमारे जो ऑफिसर्स हैं वो खास तौर पे हमारे जो एडीसी हैं वो भी बहुत ही केंद्रित रहते हैं, और उसके जॉइंट डायरेक्टर सर थे सुरेंद्र मोहन सर, वो भी फिटनेस पर काफी उनका भी ध्यान था. हमारे जो डिप्टी डायरेक्टर है हमारे साथ शिव यादव, वो भी एक फिटनेस फ्रीक हैं, और इनफैक्ट सभी ऑफिसर्स फिटनेस फ्रीक हैं, और मुझे भी उन सबसे ये इंस्पिरेशन मिलता है कि फिटनेस की तरफ ज़्यादा ध्यान देना चाहिए. तो फ्रेंड्स, डॉक्टर सरला को बुलाने से हमें ये लगता है कि हम एक बहुत बड़ा बदलाव ला सकते हैं आप लोगों के जीवन में, आपके जीवन शैली में, और आपके हेल्थ रिलेटेड इश्यूज पे. बल्कि आपके जितने भी हेल्थ रिलेटेड इश्यूज हैं उनको एलिमिनेट कर भी सकते हैं. ये भी अगर आप इस लेक्चर को ध्यान से सुनेंगे तो एक हमारी बहुत उम्मीद है कि आपके जितने हेल्थ रिलेटेड इश्यूज हैं वो खात्मे की तरफ बढ़ जाएंगे. तो विद दोज वर्ड्स आई वांट टू गिव अ स्मॉल इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ डॉक्टर सरला. डॉक्टर सरला काइको इज फ्रॉम बैंगलोर एंड शी वाज बोर्न in the year 1990 to Dr. Khadar and Madam Usha. So Dr. Khadar is nowadays a big celebrity as far as and he's presently lecturing all over USA right now as I'm speaking. And Dr. Khadar and Dr. Sarala are together developing this this understanding among people which we have lost in earlier times, of how to understand and utilize the good health habits. So she's a resident of Mysore, Karnataka, and she had completed her BHMS in 2014 from a government homeopathic college, and of course she was the topper of her batch. She has also won a gold medal from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, and she's currently practicing homeopathic medicine at Mysuru. She's a trained Bharatanatyam dancer and a certified yoga teacher also. Right now, she is married to Kushal, an environmental engineer, living the life envisioned by Dr. Khadar. She has imbibed the knowledge about Sri Dhanya millets and a simplistic living closer to nature, thus closer to health. She's eager to educate people about all that she knows. And with those words, I'll just hand it over to Dr. Sarala for enlightening our participants. And as we have reached 101 participants, so I think this is a lucky number for us as we've started speaking.
Namaste to everyone. It's a really good opportunity for me, and I'm pleased to be speaking to everyone and sharing my knowledge with everyone. So, to start off, I would like to start by talking a little about figures, numbers. So, let me start by saying that in 2021, the published data says that we have, on a whole, the Indian budget was $470 billion for the entire Indian budget. So let me specify again, not rupees, this is in dollars I am speaking. And this was our entire budget. So let me also bring to your notice that just on diabetic care in 2021, the entire worldwide expenditure has been $960 billion. So I was just trying to compare the figures between our Indian budget, and you can see that just for diabetic care throughout the world, we have spent almost double as that of our entire Indian budget. So this is just to draw your attention to the ground reality, to the fact that worldwide population, almost 25% are already diabetic. 40% of the population are suffering from hypertension. 40% of the population has been known to be obese, that is having obesity, not just in women, not just in men, even in children. 40% of the children are also facing problems of obesity. And we can go on with the list. 35% of the population is having thyroid related issues. 30% of the population has been diagnosed with cancer or tumor sometime during their lifetime. 35% of women are facing PCOD, polycystic ovarian disease, and such hormone imbalance related issues. So, what I'm trying to establish here is that the list of lifestyle diseases is just growing day by day, and the amount of money which we are spending on these diseases to manage these diseases has just been growing. The graph is just moving upwards. And unfortunately, the WHO, World Health Organization, has stated that all these so-called lifestyle diseases are seeing an upward trend. That is, in the next 20-25 years, all these diseases are almost going to double. And nowhere are we seeing a declining path. So though medical field is progressing day by day, though we are having new discoveries being made in the field of science, in the field of medicine, the number of diseases and the people suffering from these diseases, and unfortunately, one more important point, the age of onset of these diseases. Just now, sir was mentioning the middle age, those who are crossed 50 are now have being forced to give attention towards their health, being conscious about their health and their choices. But unfortunately, the diseases like BP, like diabetes, which used to start in the late 40s, 50s, 60s, has now slowly receded, and people are getting prone to get hypertension, diabetes, and such lifestyle diseases even in their late 20s and early 30s. Even within 10-year-old kids, juvenile diabetes has been increasing to a great extent. So, what I'm trying to say is that we don't have the leisure or the luxury which we used to have, that up till 40, it's okay. We used to take our health for granted. But we now need to realize that we are falling sick earlier and earlier, and those important years of our life, which were the most productive years of our life, where we would enjoy life, do some productive work, earn money, etc., etc. These years itself, we are falling prey to these so-called lifestyle diseases. And the general notion is that these diseases are all incurable. Like if you get diabetes, it's a lifelong process of having to take medicines. Or if you have BP, every day you have to take a tablet. Or if you have thyroid, you go and ask the doctor, so how long do I need to use these medicines? As long as you are alive, throughout your life, you have to use these medicines. This is the common belief which people are having right now, which we are told. But let me tell you that this is absolutely not true. All these lifestyle diseases are surely reversible, that is, not with medicines, but if we change our lifestyle. They are lifestyle diseases, so once we correct our lifestyle, we can reverse these diseases. So, saying that, I would like to again draw your attention to the current scenario where we are all living in the economic model of the society. What do I mean by this economic model of the society? So let's start by saying, if everyone has 24 hours in a day, all of us say we don't have time to exercise. We can't take out 45 minutes to 1 hour in a day just to specify or give time for our own health, to get some calories burned, to have some physical exercise. We don't have time to cook our own food. We are all so busy in our work, so busy in things which we think are really important to us, that is, I can say, making money, but we are completely neglecting what is actually really important, that is our health. So day by day we are losing the traditional practices which were passed on from generation to generation, which used to keep us healthy. Let me give you a small example. Surya Namaskar was something which our ancestors used to practice on a regular basis. Early morning, when you get up, you look at the sun and pray for a few minutes. During these few minutes, we would get the orange sun, orange reddish color sun visible in our eyes, and that orange color light actually activates the rods and cones in our eyes and releases a few chemicals in our brain, which helps to keep us active and cool and calm throughout the day. It sets a good mood for your entire day. Such a simple practice of just watching the sunrise and being humbled for a few minutes. In the same time, the sunlight which is falling on our skin for a few minutes would give us all the required vitamin D, which on now, if you check, unfortunately, even in countries like India, tropical countries, countries like Dubai, where there is a desert, where the sun is so much prevalent throughout the year, people are suffering from vitamin D deficiency. Almost half of the population is deficient of vitamin D. And we think that the solution to this is fortifying our milk or taking vitamin D tablets or injections. But no, the simple solution is just to expose yourself for 10 to 15 minutes to the early morning sun or to the sun when the sun is setting. So 10 to 15 minutes of exposure to the sun, we can synthesize more than enough vitamin D for our requirements. And trust me, having good levels of vitamin D has so much benefits in our body. It's not just the calcium or vitamin D which are linked. Having good amount of vitamin D is even necessary for good skin texture, good moods, good your whole entire energy levels is dependent on your vitamin D levels. So this was just a small example of how simple practices which our ancestors used to follow, which we are slowly forgetting and not realizing how important they were going a long way in deciding our health. On similar lines, I can say that in the past 50, 60 years, in our greed to have more production, more money generated, all everything being driven by the economic model as I was speaking of. So we think that milk is good for us and we need to produce more and more milk for everyone. So in the name of the white revolution, we have been injecting cows with hormone injections, growth hormones, steroid hormones to increase the production of milk. And we are consuming this milk which is ridden with steroids along with a lot of antibiotics. And what is happening? Slowly and steadily, the age at which girls attain menarche, initial menarche, first time at attaining their periods, has slowly come down from earlier it used to be 14, 15 years, and now it has become 8 to 10 years has become the average. Not just this, throughout our reproductive life, we are facing a lot of issues regarding the hormone imbalances like irregular periods, excessive bleeding, lumps in the breast, having fibroids in the uterus, and such kind of issues which result from a regular, constant hormone imbalance. So, in the greed of producing more and more milk, earlier our Desi A2 cows would give hardly 4 liters of milk per day. But now we replace them with the Jersey variety of cows, which are giving A1 type of milk, and they are giving around 20 liters of milk per day because of the small genetic variations which have happened, and also the huge amount of steroid and growth hormone injections which we are using to produce the milk. So all that the milk industry is thinking about is how to increase the milk. The end result that the A1 milk is harmful for us, that these steroids are causing so much havoc and hormone imbalance in the body is completely neglected. On similar lines, speaking of the oil production, the cooking oils, so I was just mentioning, without oil, food does not have taste at all. At least if these oils were extracted in the right way, it wouldn't harm us much. But what are we doing? Again, it's an food industry driven way of extracting the oils. We use huge machines, extreme heat and extreme pressure to extract each and every drop of oil which is present in that seed, be it sunflower oil, be it groundnut oil, be it olive oil. We use chemical methods and a lot of pressure and temperature to extract all the oil in these seeds. So what happens in the process? Yes, the output of oil increases. You get 50 to 60% oil is being produced. But what is the quality of this oil? All the good substances which were inherently present in the oil have been destroyed. For example, sesame oil is rich in vitamin E. Natural oils have a lot of antioxidants in them. But we are destroying all these good substances because of the excessive pressure and excessive temperature which we are using to extract the oils. And on the other hand, it's not just destroying the good elements, we are adding into this oil a lot and lot of free radicals which are responsible for initiating cancer inside our body. So these free radicals are negative charges which, when they enter our body, can destroy the cells in our body. They can kill the cells inside our body, and they can even initiate cancer inside the body. So the refining process in which we are extracting these oils is so harmful to us, yet the industry is only focusing on producing more and more oil. So as you can see, in the past 60 to 70 years, the industrialization of food, where everything is more about producing more and getting more profits rather than concentrating on how good is the end product. What will this end product, the food which people are consuming every single day in their life, what effect is it having on them? On a similar line, another example would be that in the name of green revolution, the fertilizer companies, in the greed to sell more and more fertilizers, what did they do? They started promoting those crops which would double the yields by using fertilizers. So which are these crops? Let me stress again that the fertilizer is taken up by the plant through water. So when the crop uses more water, then if you add fertilizer, the output or the yield of the crop is going to be more. If you use fertilizer for crops which don't take up much water, then there is not much difference in the yields. So what did the fertilizer companies do in the name of green revolution? They started promoting those crops which were water intense, जिनके लिए ज्यादा पानी की जरूरत हो, ऐसे crops को promote किया. So which are these crops which we are talking about, which require a lot of water to be grown? These are nothing but 1, sugarcane, 2, rice, and 3, wheat. So these are the 3 crops which in the past 60, 70 years have slowly been promoted by creating different kinds of scientific myths. For example, those people who eat jowar, bajra, etc. are now considered the lower sector of the society. And the progressive society, the forward moving, the upper class, are those who are considered to be those who eat more of rice and more of wheat. So in this way, a kind of I can say a myth was created in the society, such that people started equating eating rice, wheat, sugar with progress. And in the name of this progress, people slowly started to forget their local traditional foods and started moving towards the industrial food culture. Now you will see, even in the remote villages in our country, you will see packets of ready foods, chips being sold, snacks being sold, biscuits being sold, people having an entire packet of biscuit as their breakfast rather than preparing some food. This is not just happening in the cities, even in the remotest villages, this is the trend which we are seeing. Slowly and steadily, actually you can say that there is so much variety in India that every 100 kilometers you move, there are different kinds of traditional grains being used, different traditional recipes which were there, different kinds of foods which used to be prepared and consumed by the people. But now it's all become the same. Anywhere in the world you go, there is food, be it in the form of noodles, be it in the form of bread, be it in the form of cake, be it in the form of roti or idli or dosa. Only 2 grains which are being used worldwide 365 days of a year, that is rice and wheat. So what is the problem with rice and wheat? Exactly, everyone likes it and the fertilizer companies are also happy if people are producing it. So why are we saying that it is not good for you? So the scientific explanation for this, I just gave you the reason why people have been consuming rice and wheat, because in the name of green revolution, the fertilizer companies have promoted these water intensive crops so that they can sell more and more fertilizers and make more and more profits. But considering the human body, scientifically, these were not the grains which were meant to be our food, staple food. Yes, even earlier, rice and wheat existed. I'm not saying nobody used to eat them, but they used to consume rice and wheat occasionally, like if there was a festival, or if there were guests who were coming home, or if there was some kind of celebration, then rice and wheat were usually used. The other days, the regular days, people used to have a lot of variety of grains as their staple food. So over the past few years, we have eliminated these grains and selected only rice and wheat. Now, I was saying scientifically they're not right for our body. You have to ask me the question next as to why are they not scientifically the right food for our body? The answer would be that these two grains, rice and wheat, have very little fiber inside the grain. So, what is this fiber? Because of the fiber, the carbohydrate element in the grain. So let me first tell you that it is the carbohydrate which we digest, convert into glucose, and burn this glucose to give us energy. So every living cell inside our body requires this glucose to be alive. That is how we derive our energy. The way you need petrol or diesel to run a car in our body, where do we get the energy from? We get it by burning glucose. So where do we get this glucose from? When we eat any source of carbohydrate, it gets digested inside our digestive system and glucose is released into the blood. So the complex carbohydrate has to be broken down by digestive enzymes to release glucose. And it is this glucose which gives us energy. So rice and wheat are, yes, a source of carbohydrate. But what kind of carbohydrate is this? It is completely devoid of any fiber. Originally, wheat, which was our local Desi wheat, used to contain 1.2% of fiber. However, the hybrid variety, which is available now in the market, which most of us are using, has even less percentage of fiber, not even 1.2% of fiber. And rice, if you have brown rice, red rice, or unpolished rice, then it has 0.2% of fiber. But in the form which we are using now, like
Noon, ma'am.
or polished rice, we have 0% of fiber in it. So what happens as a result of this? The carbohydrate gets digested.
Good noon, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
I have one doubt.
Yes.
Just as you said that earlier,
Mm-hmm.
before 50 years or 70 years,
Yes.
when guests used to come, we have to consume wheat and rice.
Yes.
And
That was.
presently, our staple diet is rice and wheat. So I want to ask, if we want to shift on millets, whether
Mhm.
we consume pure millet diet daily, or we can mix it with wheat flour
No.
and occasionally eat wheat, something like that.
I think we should hold on to questions for a little longer till I explain a bit. I will include your answer in what I'm speaking about. Okay. So I think just give me 10 or 15 more minutes so that I can establish about millets. Then I will come to your answer. Is that okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, yeah, where was I? I was telling you that the carbohydrate gets converted to glucose and releases glucose into our blood very, very quickly when there is no fiber in the food. So as this happens, there is the initiation of glucose imbalance in our body. Glucose is something which we require for energy, but too much of it is also not good for us. So what happens when we eat rice or wheat? Within half an hour, the entire amount of carbohydrate is being converted into glucose, and there is a sudden shooting of glucose inside our body. The levels of glucose are going to suddenly spike up inside our blood. So what happens when there is a sudden spike of glucose in the body? The entire body is trying to reduce these glucose levels and manage these glucose levels. So what does the body do? The first coping mechanism which the body uses, it takes all this glucose into the liver, and the liver converts it into what is known as glycogen. The liver is the chemistry lab inside our body. So suppose you have a lot of papers on your table, like 100-150 papers on your table. What do? You try to bring them all together, into a file. Similarly, the body, lot of glucose in the blood, it has to manage it. So it brings all the glucose together and packs it together and makes it into a substance called glycogen. But then what happens if you have 20-30 files lying on your table? Again, it's a problem. So what do? You take all the files and put it into a box. So similarly, what our body does, all the extra glucose converts to glycogen, and all the glycogen, it packs together and makes it into fat. So what happens to this fat? It starts getting deposited under the skin, and resultant is one of the main lifestyle diseases which we were talking about, that is obesity. Another mechanism which the body might adopt to is it converts all this extra glucose into cholesterol. So where does this cholesterol get deposited? It gets deposited inside our blood vessels. So inside the small arteries and veins, the cholesterol starts getting deposited and the blood flow starts getting hampered. Another mechanism which the body might adapt to is getting all this extra glucose and get stuck on the blood cells itself, on the RBC. And that is when we say that our glycosylated hemoglobin levels have increased. That is when we have diabetes. So you can see how increased glucose levels lead to obesity. The increased imbalance of glucose in the blood is leading to cholesterol and heart blocks, and how it is leading to diabetes. Even hypertension is a result of this glucose imbalance in our body. We all believe that eating salt causes BP, but eating salt actually just increases your blood pressure temporarily. But the root cause of your blood pressure is also the increased levels of glucose in the blood. It's like when you're trying to make jamun, what do? You put sugar and mix it in water. Instead of water being thin and flowing, it has become thick. So similarly, our blood, when we are putting more and more glucose suddenly into our blood by eating sugar, by eating rice, by eating wheat, what happens? Our blood, which is supposed to flow freely in the blood vessels, is now becoming more and more thick and not able to flow. So if the blood is not flowing freely, the pressure inside the blood vessel increases, and that is what we call as hypertension or blood pressure. So you can see how this one root cause of having a glucose imbalance is directly and indirectly responsible for all the so-called lifestyle diseases. So what is the solution? How do we get out of this glucose imbalance? So what do we need to do? We need to eat food which is the carbohydrate source needs to have a higher amount of fiber in it. Very simple. So what does this fiber do? It holds back the carbohydrate from being digested very soon in the body. If the fiber and carbohydrate are present together, if they are intermingled together, then the body needs to break this fiber and then get the carbohydrate released and slowly and steadily digested to release glucose into the blood. So this slow and steady process of releasing glucose into our blood happens when we eat food which is rich in fiber. So when we start searching for these grains which have more amount of fiber, the ones which were still easily prevalent in our country, which we had held on to strongly, were few places available were jowar, bajra, ragi or kangni. So such grains were still existing in our country. Few communities were still having these grains. So we classify rice and wheat as negative grains because they have almost 0% fiber for practical purposes, and they are causing a glucose imbalance in our body and leading to various kinds of diseases. So what about these ragi, jowar, bajra, these grains? We classify them as neutral grains. So what are these neutral grains? They have a fiber percentage of 2 to 4%. So what happens because of this 2 to 4% of fiber, the release of glucose is a little slow. It takes around 2 hours for the carbohydrate to be converted to glucose and released into your blood. So because of this, what happens if you are healthy? If you don't have any kind of disease, you will remain healthy if you are eating these grains, ragi, jowar, bajra and other neutral grains. But if you already have some disease, so we already spoke about the situation now where 25% population is already diabetic, 40% is already having BP and such other lifestyle diseases. So if you're already having disease, eating these neutral grains, that is those grains having 2 to 4% of fiber, you will not come out of your disease, but your disease will not increase also. It's like when you put your car on neutral, it will neither go forward nor go backward. So we call these grains as neutral grains. But then what is the solution for those who are already facing the diseased conditions? So we had to search for grains which had even higher fiber than jowar, bajra, ragi, etc. So when we started searching for such grains, we came across 5 positive grains. I call them positive grains because they have the capacity to bring those who are already in a state of disease out of this diseased condition. So which are these 5 positive grains? The first one is foxtail millet, which has 8% of fiber. Then we have Kodo millet, which is quite popular in the Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh area. The tribals still consume Kodo millet as their staple food. Then, yeah, Kodo millet, Kodo chawal. It has 9% fiber. And then we have millet or sawa it is called in Hindi, which has 10% of fiber. Then there's the barnyard millet or jhangora it is called in Hindi, which also has 10% of fiber. And lastly, the fifth grain, that is brown top millet, which has 12.5% of fiber. So compare it to rice and wheat, you almost have 40 times more fiber in these grains. I'm not saying that they do not have carbs. It's not a no carb diet. If you're eating millets, you are going to have a lot of energy because there is carbohydrate in these grains too. But how is this carbohydrate present? It is mixed with fiber, layer and layer of fiber and carbohydrate, fiber and carbohydrate. So it gives us the energy which we require. It gives us the glucose which we require, but there's never a sudden rush of glucose into the blood, which is causing havoc and causing all these diseases. Instead, slowly and steadily, Over 5 to 6 hours, glucose comes into the blood little by little. So what happens because of this slow release of glucose, the glucose imbalance which was already there slowly and steadily can be corrected and reversed in our body. So that is the reason I said that these so-called incurable diseases, which we all believe there is no solution, lifelong we have to take treatment. Yes, that is the case. If you continue to eat rice and wheat, lifelong you have to take medicine. But if you change your staple food to the food which our ancestors used to consume regularly, then slowly and steadily you can be completely free from these diseases. If you've already got it also, you can come back. Then imagine those who are healthy. If we regularly consume these millets, you can have the positive millets and the neutral millets if you have no disease. All these variety of grains which God has given us, if we start to consume, we can remain healthy in our future also. We can prevent the lifestyle diseases. The WHO is predicting that it's all going to double, which means what? Every 1% out of 2 people is going to be suffering from diabetes. So this is the state which the health organization themselves is predicting. But if we just change our basic staple food to these lot of grains which God has given us, we have all stuck to only two. We are eating only rice, wheat in different forms. But if we start consuming all these grains, which on the other hand, someone has just been asking, they are going to be easy to grow with minimal water requirement. You do not need the dams to be built. You do not need the irrigation, so much of water to be put into the fields to grow all these millets. They grow with just 200 to 300 liters of water per kg is required to grow these positive millets. On the other hand, to get 1 kg of rice ready, you need 8,000 liters of water being spent. Similarly, for wheat, you need around 10,000 liters of water. On the other hand, sugar, we require 25,000 liters of water for 1 kg of sugar to be grown. And we speak about water scarcity. We speak about agricultural lands becoming barren and not having enough water to grow crops. If we are selecting water intensive crops as our food, of course, we are not going to have sufficient water to grow these crops. However, if we select the grains which are actually good for us health wise also, and also for the environment, as they are consuming very little water, just rainfall is sufficient to grow these positive millets, to grow the millets as our staple food. So when I say this, people ask a lot of questions like, will we get all the nutrients we require by eating millets? Will we have enough energy? I do physical work. Will I have enough energy for my work if I'm eating millets? Can I give this to my kids? They are growing children. Will they have enough nutrients to grow into healthy adults if I'm giving them millets? So all these doubts let me clear by saying positive millets have not just fiber and carbohydrates, they are rich in vitamin B1, B12, all these kinds of vitamins. They are rich in iron, they are rich in calcium, all the required nutrients. They even have protein within themselves as much as we require. So all kinds of nutrients which are required are present in these 5 positive millets, and if we use them on rotation, there is no need to worry about our health at all, be it for your children, be it for the aged people, be it for people who do physical labor or any kind of work. So not just this, as we define food, food has to be something which not just gives us energy. It has to be something which can clean the body of all the toxic waste which is produced. So inside our body, as and when metabolism happens, there is going to be some amount of waste created on a day-to-day basis. And when this toxic waste starts accumulating inside our body, we get a lot of diseases. So we need to eliminate the waste on a day-to-day basis. So what is it that should help in eliminating the waste? It is again our food. What we consume on a daily basis should be capable of helping to clean the body also. So rice and wheat do not fit the definition of food, for a matter of fact that they have only carbohydrate in them and have no fiber which can help to clean the body. It is the soluble fiber which can clean the body of all the toxic waste. So when we speak about the positive millets, each of these positive millets has a special property of cleaning every organ in your body. So let me focus on each of these grains a little bit. So foxtail millet, which is also called the Italian millet, has a special property of cleaning the nerves in your body and also the joints in your body. So people who are suffering from joint pains, it can be osteoarthritis, it might be rheumatoid arthritis, are they're going to be very much benefited when they have foxtail millet. People having nervous related disorders. So this can mean like if your child is getting fits when it has fever, or not even without fever also getting convulsions. For epilepsy problem, foxtail millet is very, very good. For old age related issues like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, or old people getting slight tremors in their body because of the nerves becoming weak. The memory issues which are happening as the age progresses, your memory starts going. So all these kind of nerve degenerated related issues can also be helped by using foxtail millet. And also for the lungs. So as now lot of people who have suffered from corona are having problem that even after recovering their lungs have become weak. Climbing steps, you feel you have to stop to take your breath. If you're climbing uphill, you're feeling breathless. So the lungs which were infected not getting fully recovered. It might be because of corona, it might be because of tuberculosis, it might be asthma, any kind of lung related issues. Even to clean the lungs, foxtail millet is very good. So just to summarize, foxtail millet, also known as the Italian millet, in Hindi we call it as kangni, kutki, and this itself is going to help to clean the nerves, clean the joints, and clean the lungs. Next, moving on to Kodo millet. So Kodo millet is also called the Himalayan millet, very specific to the valleys of the around the Himalayas. Even in China too, in the other side of the Himalayan valleys, Kodo millet was very popularly used. So why am I specifying Italian millet? In China it was being used, and then I'll tell you that brown top millet is also called American millet and all. So why I'm saying this is, I'm trying to specify that millets were not just used in India. All over the world, we have references of millets being the staple food from thousands of years. It's just in the past 100 years that we have all forgotten these grains and shifted to rice and wheat, again for the, as I was saying, because of the industrial food culture which has taken over. So Kodo millet is very good for the blood related issues. So anything related to the blood, Kodo millet will help you. For example, people having very low hemoglobin levels, especially women in India, have a lot of issue with the iron levels, hemoglobin levels being very low. And if you're anemic, there are lots of associated complaints with that. So Kodo millet is very, very good. Having dengue and platelet count falling very low, Kodo millet will immediately help to boost the platelet levels in your body. Blood cancer also can be helped with Kodo millet. Allergies. So we all think that allergy is in the nose or in the eyes, or when you're sneezing, it's something related to the respiratory tract. But an allergy is actually the immune system responding excessively to stimulants. For example, if there is dust, the normal response is to have 3 or 4 sneezes so that the dust comes out of the nose and doesn't enter your lungs. But a little bit of dust causing 20, 30, 40 sneezes, that means your immune system is overreacting to a stimulus. So where is the problem? The problem is in your immune system. Where is your immune system? It is in the blood. So the WBC, which is in our blood, are responsible for our immunity. So having very low immunity or having allergies where your immune system is overreacting, for this also Kodo millet is very, very good. As sir was mentioning, because of corona, a lot of bad things happened. But one good thing which has happened is all of us have realized that immunity is important. Our health is important, and that we need to give some attention towards it. So Kodo millet is very good for boosting your immunity. Kodo millet is good for all blood related issues. Okay. Now moving on, we have barnyard millet. It's also called the Japanese millet. Also has 10% of fiber, and this is good for cleaning your liver. So as I mentioned earlier, liver is the chemistry lab inside the body. So all metabolic activities are governed by how good your liver is. So if you eat barnyard millet on a regular basis, what happens? The liver gets cleaned and you can be away from all these digestive related issues, all these problems like jaundice, like typhoid affecting the liver. So small children, the main complaint parents have about children is they don't eat well, they don't have a good appetite. That happens when your liver is not functioning optimally. So barnyard millet is very good for such conditions. Even in alcoholic liver disease, where people have had too much alcohol for many years and destroyed their liver. Even in such extreme conditions, barnyard millet can help regenerate the liver and make the person healthy again. So this is about barnyard millet or Japanese millet being very good for cleansing the liver. Next, moving to little millet. So little millet or sawa, it's also called as sawa. It's also called ratka chawal. Lot of people, I think in North India, whenever there is fasting or there is a puja prayer, they use sawa millet, and that is nothing but little millet. So the basic logic in using little millet during fasting is that it is slow and steady release of glucose. So even if you have one meal, you're not going to be hungry soon. For 5 to 6 hours, it's going to continue to release glucose, so you feel energetic and you have energy throughout the day, sufficient even if you have just one meal. So that's the logic behind using millets during fasting. But if you have rice or wheat, immediately there's a rush of glucose and then again you start feeling hungry. So fasting becomes difficult. So little millet is very good. It's also called the African millet. In a lot of African countries, even today, where the economic progress has not happened much, little millet is one of the staple foods which they use. So little millet is good for all hormone related complaints. For example, thyroid related issues. There's a misconception that eating millets causes thyroid problems. That is absolutely not true. We have thousands of patients of thyroid being completely cured after using millets, especially little millet. All reproductive related issues, female related complaints, it might be irregular menses, PCOD, fibroids in the uterus, heavy bleeding, menopausal issues. In men, very low sperm count or the quality of the sperm being very poor. So as a result, what happens? both the egg release is not good in women, sperm count being very poor in men together, combined what we are facing of late, infertility issues, that couples are not able to have children, again resorting to lot of artificial methods and having a long procedure to even have a baby. Earlier, population burst was an issue, and now infertility is becoming a growing problem in our country. It has already affected other countries. For example, in Germany, you may be aware that Germany has opened its gates to all students, free education for students. Why? Because in Germany, the local population is more so above 60 years of age. They don't have a younger generation at all, because this kind of infertility and hormone related issues struck them 20-30 years back. So the whole population as such has shifted, that there are more old people, and people in the productive working age group has reduced. So what are they doing to attract youngsters? Germany has opened to free education, so that more and more youngsters go there to study, settle there, and they have a younger generation in their country. We are not yet seeing the effect in India right now because our population is so huge, but the trend, if it continues this way, they are saying that by 2050 Indian population is also going to start to decline. So all this happening because of the hormone imbalance, and little millet, which we were speaking about, is going to help to clean the reproductive organs, clean the endocrine organs in our body, and set right this hormone imbalance in the body. So we spoke about foxtail millet being good for the nerves, being good for the joints, being good for the lungs. Kodo millet being good for all blood related issues. Blood related issues also includes heart related issues, cholesterol issues, BP related issues, all things related to the blood. We spoke about barnyard millet being good for all liver related complaints, and little millet being good for all hormone related complaints. Lastly, speaking about brown top millet. So brown top millet is slightly green in color. It has 12.5% of fiber and is also called the American millet. So what is brown top millet good for? Brown top millet has the cleansing properties all of foxtail millet. Additional to that, that is additional to joints, nerves, lungs, it also has a cleansing action on our skin. So all skin related issues, brown top millet is very good for you. Also all rectal related complaints, having the highest amount of fiber for constipation. One of the biggest problems which humanity is facing now is we are not able to clear our bowels in the morning. Everyone is struggling to have a good bowel movement. So we are neglecting this. Actually, most patients who come to me, if I ask them what complaints do you have, they just say one or two things. I have thyroid, I have BP, and they just are quiet. And then when I ask them, do you have a clear bowel movement every day, they're like, oh no, I go once in 2 days, or I go but it's so difficult, I need a lot of time, or I go but I don't feel satisfied, I don't feel clear. So we are not even considering it as a problem. It's become like, oh, this is a daily thing, this is what I have from before. But actually having a good bowel movement, a clear bowel movement, is very, very essential for good health. And as a result of prolonged constipation, lot of people suffering from piles or bleeding while passing stools, or pus while passing stools, which we call as fistula and fissures. So all these rectal related complaints can be solved by using brown top millet. And brown top millet has the highest anti-cancerous property. So all millets are very good for cancer patients also, because they have lot of antioxidants and have lignans. So lignans are something which eliminate free radicals. While speaking about oils, I mentioned that when we use high temperature and pressure to extract oil, free radicals are generated which damage the cells inside our body and will initiate cancer. So millets have lignans which can remove these free radicals from the body. Oils are not the only source of free radicals. They are a major contribution, but free radicals enter our body from various other sources as well and are even generated inside the body. So these lignans which are present in the outer fiber of millets can help to remove these free radicals and are thus anti-cancerous in nature also. So brown top millet has the highest anti-cancerous property amongst the 5 positive millets. So when I say this, that each millet has its own good property, the next thing which comes to people's mind is, let's mix all these millets together, prepare a multi-grain drink or a multi-grain bread or something like that, multi-grain atta, and consume it. एक बार सभी को मिला के खा लो. But we are forgetting that for the blood to be cleaned, I need a good amount of Kodo millet to be consumed. That is, one entire meal, if I have Kodo millet, my blood can get purified. One entire meal, if I have little millet, my endocrine glands can get cleansed. If I'm mixing everything together, then what happens? Yes, the glucose imbalance will be set right even if you mix the millets. But this individual cleaning property which we spoke about just now, which each millet has, cannot be happening inside the body. The cleansing does not happen if there is little bit of everything and not sufficient quantity of any one millet fiber. So what we need to remember is that mixing the grains is not ideal, especially the question which was asked earlier: can we mix wheat flour with millet flour and make roti and eat? No, that will not be of any use, because the wheat flour which you eat, that will have no fiber and sudden release of glucose is happening. So you are not even achieving the glucose balance which you want to have in your body. I'm not saying don't mix wheat and millet. I'm saying don't even mix other millets together. Don't mix Kodo and foxtail millet. Eat them individually for getting the best results. So to answer your question, once in a while, our ancestors, once in a month or once in 2 months or something like that, on an occasion basis, if they used to eat rice or wheat, they wouldn't have any problem for that. Even now, if we occasionally have rice or wheat and on a regular basis we are having millets, it will not cause problem in our body. But what are we doing? It's become the opposite. 365 days of a year we are consuming those grains which are giving us disease, and on some blue moon occasion we might consume jowar or bajra or some millet, and that cannot be of any use in our body. So we need to make these little millet, foxtail millet, these positive millets as our staple food to lead a healthy life, and in this way we can correct the glucose imbalance and we can cleanse our body of all the toxins being deposited in our body. So we ideally suggest for the patients who come to our clinic to have each millet for 2 days, like 2 days little millet, 2 days foxtail millet, and in this way, if you keep rotating, we can cleanse all the parts of our body and lead a healthy life. So in this way, I can say that foxtail millet, little millet, all these positive millets are a complete food, and not just the food of our ancestors. They are food for the present and food for the future as well. So just to touch upon the environmental aspect, I can say that in the future, we have already seen that because of global warming, there's a 2-degree raise in temperature, and because of this 2-degree raise in a temperature, global temperature, the yields of rice and wheat are falling. Already 15 to 20% the yield has fallen because these grains need more water and cannot grow well at higher temperatures. But On the other hand, millets are drought resistant. Even at higher temperatures, 42, 44 degrees, millets can be grown well. Even in low temperatures, they can grow. Even in high temperatures, they can grow. So in the future, if we have another 2-degree raise in the global temperatures, rice and wheat yields are going to fall drastically to less than 40-50%, and which will not be sufficient to give food for the entire population. So let us not wait until that situation is occurring. Let us hope that we do not lead to another 2 degrees raise in the global temperature. We can save the environment, save the water resource by consuming the grains which are good for our health and good for the environment. Lot of people asked me after listening to the lecture, okay, you don't have any disease, right? Do you eat millets? So yes, of course, I eat millets for 2 reasons. One, because I don't want to fall sick in the future. What we do now, the present, is what defines our health 10 years later. So if I want to be healthy in my 40s, it is now that I need to have the right food, the right lifestyle, and the right exercise for my body. So what I do now defines my health 10 years in the future. So I don't want to be sick in my 40s, 50s. I have to make changes right now. That is one reason. And a more important reason is, for the future generations, I want some way to contribute towards this scenario of global warming, for the scenario of preserving the environment, preserving the resources for the future. So if we do the calculations, one person in 1 year can save a huge pond water, a huge lake water, just a single person, by switching from rice or wheat to millets. So this is how you can contribute by making small changes. Yes, of course, not using plastic is important, planting trees is important, getting taps repaired so that they don't leak is important, but more important than all these is that we concentrate that our food, which we consume every single day, 3 times a day, is not a burden on the environment. If our food is eco-friendly, then it's a big contribution towards the environment. So I personally, the reason why I prefer to eat millets and not rice, wheat, sugar, is because I am contributing towards saving water for our future generations. It is said that the next years, the world war which is going to come is not going to be fought over power or a territory or something. It's going to be fought for water, because that is going to be the most scarce resource on the planet, consumable potable water. So if we can save water, then it is a very big contribution which we are going to have. Yes, now I think I have just laid the basic foundation. So now we can take questions. If anyone has questions related to what we have spoken till now, this would be the right time to address them. Any questions? Okay, so from where can we get millets? Okay, so unfortunately, as I was saying, these were grains which used to be there everywhere, all around the world. In our country especially, umpteen number of millets. I mentioned 5 positive millets, but there may be many more locally available millets which have other health benefits of their own. These are the 5 which we have been able to procure, and we have been able to grow. We have been able to know their properties, but there may be many more. So we need to start looking for the local varieties which are available. Right now in all organic shops, the 5 positive millets are available because of the awareness which has come about. In South India, at least in Karnataka, Andhra, Telangana, they're easily available every 2-3 kilometers radius you have organic shops selling millets. I'm not sure right now how the scenario is in North India, but it is picking up. In Punjab, there are a lot of organic farmers who are growing millets. In Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, UP, I think Kodo Millet, at least one, has been easily available, and the other millets need to pick up soon. Yeah, another question which I am seeing here is are fertilizers and pesticides not used for millets? Are they organic? So yes, the thing is that fertilizer, a plant takes it up through water. So millets take up so less water that even if you add fertilizer, it is not going to change the output. If there are 10 tons of millet which will be produced in your land, even if you add fertilizer, you will still get 10 tons itself. It is not going to become 15 or 20 tons. So that is the reason, since they don't take up water, they don't use the fertilizer. Fertilizer has to be dissolved in water for the plant to take up. So these crops which use less water are not fertilizer dependent. So even if you use fertilizer, the output is not going to change. So the farmers don't use any kind of fertilizers while growing millets. So all millets are, as of now, organic. There is no point of adding fertilizer, so no one's going to waste money adding fertilizer if they're not going to get more profit. And coming to pesticides, only birds are what love to eat millets. So if you're farming and if you're a farmer and you're going to aiming to grow millets, the only thing you need to worry about is birds. They come in hundreds to eat the millets. They know that millets are good. Unlike us, birds recognize that this is good food. So hundreds of birds can come and completely empty your field of the millets. That is the only problem. There are no pest issues as such. So pesticides and such chemicals are not required to grow millets. You'll need to protect them from birds in that time. That's it. Then luckily there are no chemicals being used for that, at least now. So we don't have to worry about chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers when we are consuming millets. As of now, all millets are organic. That would be the answer to your question. Any other questions? Yes. Someone's raising their hand. You can unmute and ask the question.
Madam, doctor, I am from Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. That I had read the article of Dr. Khadar, and I had followed 4 or 5 months from February to May. That actually I used that 5 millets in the lunch. At the morning and the evening, I used that flour, that mixed flour only for dosa and idli. Continuously I used it, that I have the problem of diabetic and diabetic neuropathy. But at that time I was stopped my walking and all. So that only I got up my weight. But there is no change on my diabetic and neuropathy.
Yeah. So you have not followed it in the correct way. You should not use mixed millets. You need to use them individually. 2 days each millet in rotation, all 3 meals in the day. Continue to do your walking and continue to, if you are already on heavy medication, don't suddenly stop the medicine. You need to reduce it step by step, and surely you will see results. And also, there are a few other things which you can follow to hasten the process of healing, like using decoctions, like stopping sugar in milk and coffee, tea. That is also.
I am not using that. 100% that this much only I am using.
Yeah.
That
So
little fruits only I am using, guava, apple.
fruits is not an issue, but you need to do this correctly. All 3 meals, separate individual millets, 2 millets per day. I'm sure you will. Diabetes is very easy to, it's not at all a big issue if you follow this correctly.
Thank you, madam.
Any other questions?
हेलो मैम।
Yes, go ahead.
मैम मैं जब भी मोटा अनाज खाने को मुझे बहुत शौक है। मैं हमेशा बचपन से खाते आया हूँ। लेकिन अब जब भी खाता हूँ मोटा अनाज, जैसे मक्का की रोटी खा लिया या और कोई, तो पेट मेरा खराब हो जाता है। इसलिए मैं अब खाना छोड़ दिया ये सब।
Okay. So one very important thing which you need to understand while eating millets is that they have a very high amount of fiber in them. So what we need to do to be able to digest these millets, to be able to cook with these millets well, to be able to have tasty food with millets, the first and most important step is to soak the millets well. So rice and wheat, they don't have fiber. So 2 minutes instant noodles you can make with maida or with atta. But millets have 40 times more fiber than rice and wheat. So what you need to do is you need to soak the millets well. Millets को भिगोना पड़ता है पकाने से पहले. So how long do you need to soak if you're making millet rice or using millet in the whole form? At least 6 to 8 hours you need to soak the millets. If you're using it in the form of आटा या सूजी के रूप में रोटी बनाने के लिए आटा पीस के आप बना रहे हो तो एटलीस्ट 2 घंटे भिगोना पड़ता है. So any form of millets soaking is a must. If it's flour, atta, then 2 hours. If it's suji, then 4 hours. If you're using millet in the rice form, 6 to 8 hours. So if you soak well before cooking the millets, the innermost fiber is also soaked, then it will cook properly, then there will not be any issues with digestion. तभी जाके वो आपको फायदा करेगा. Okay, so if eating millets, please remember soaking is a must. हम सब we have gotten used to cooking rice and wheat, so soaking also we're doing like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, आधा घंटा भिगोया पका दिया. Outer layer will be cooked, but inside it will not be cooked properly. So that is why you might be facing digestive problems. And another thing is that we have not been used to eating millets from so many years. We've eaten only rice and wheat. Suddenly you introduce something, your body might initially react. Continue for 3 to 4 weeks, then your body will get adjusted and all these issues will disappear. In those 3 to 4 weeks period, to help with your digestion, we suggest to have 1 teaspoon of sprouted methi seeds. Methi ka sprouts jo hai, empty stomach, if you have this, it will help to set right those minor digestive issues which you may face while starting to consume millets. Okay, I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
Madam, last 2-3 years we were using the flour mix of wheat, nachni, jowar and bajra. Should I continue it or should I stop it?
No, don't use mixed flour. Mixing the flour is not at all good. You'll not get any benefit from using good grain also when you're mixing it. So use separately. 1 day a week you want to have wheat roti, have 1 meal wheat roti, it's okay. But the other meals when you're having, have separate millet. That will give you maximum benefit.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, since we are not using millets in our diet very often, so please can you suggest us what is the best way to include it? Like when, what should we eat in breakfast or in lunch or in dinner? Because see, we start this thing when somebody like, doctor says that, okay, you have to start millet, then we focus for 15 days, 20 days, then it gets discontinued.
Yes.
So can you give us the plan which can, we can maintain for longer time?
Yes, a very good question. So till now we spoke about the glucose imbalance happening in our body, and I also slightly discussed about the hormone imbalance happening because of the steroids in milk, etc. Another very important imbalance inside our body is the microbial imbalance. So what are these microbes? Which microbes are we speaking about? We are speaking about the gut microbes. हमारे intestine के अंदर जो अच्छे probiotic bacteria which are supposed to be there are very, very important for our health. So if these bacteria are not present inside our gut, mainly because of the high usage of antibiotics, हमारे शरीर में एक बार एंटीबायोटिक इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ तो नेक्स्ट 6 months तक doctor is not supposed to prescribe antibiotics to you. That is only then you can be healthy. These are the guidelines which are given to doctors. But unfortunately, what we do, every small cold, small fever, we are taking antibiotics. And not just that, through the milk, as I was saying, to produce more and more milk, injections are given to the cows, and regularly we are getting milk. And then what happens, the cow starts having infection in the mammary gland. So for that, regularly antibiotics are given. So the milk, through milk also we are getting a high dose of antibiotics on a daily basis. Also similarly while using meat. So small poultry farm mein so many chicken are grown together. What happens, because of the overcrowding, they are prone to infections. No light, no ventilation, darkness, more bacteria and virus attack the chicken. I'm taking chicken as an example. Similar basis for other forms of meat also. So what is the poultry industry doing? On a regular basis, antibiotic injections are given to these chicken to prevent these bacterial infections. It is said that in the lifespan of the chicken, which is now reduced to 3 to 4 months before it is cut and sold in the meat market, within 3 to 4 months, it is given dosage of antibiotics which is can be prescribed for human being in 21 years of their life. So 21 years में आप जितने antibiotics लोगे, 4 months में उतना antibiotic dose एक chicken को दिया गया जाता है, और वो पूरा antibiotic we are consuming. So because of this, what is happening? The microbes in our gut, which are very essential for our health, are dying. So we are losing the good bacteria inside our gut. So what do these bacteria help for? The good bacteria are the first line of defense in our body. They are very much necessary for our immunity. If we do not have good bacteria in the gut, bad bacteria are invited into the body. If good bacteria are there, they keep away the bad bacteria. So one, for immunity, we require these probiotic microbes. Two, what else do? They release enzymes which help in absorption. पहले से ही हमारे खाने में न्यूट्रिएंट्स कम है, और जो न्यूट्रिएंट्स है उसको हम अब्सॉर्ब नहीं कर पा रहे, क्योंकि हमारे एंजाइम्स जो चाहिए फॉर absorption of nutrients, those are missing because the microbes are not there in our intestine. So to absorb nutrients, very much required are the probiotic bacteria. Especially vitamin B12 levels are good in your body only if you have a good probiotic colony inside your gut. They affect us to such an extent that there is a link between our moods and our gut. They always say, no, we have a gut feeling. What is this gut feeling? It is the microbes which are helping us to think properly. So, आजकल the rate of suicide, the rates of depression, the rates of anxiety, murder, all these extremes in mental health we are seeing, it has been connected to the absence of a good microbial growth inside our intestines. So a very good question which was put up: what is the best form to start taking millets in our diet? For those who have never had millets before, the best way to start, and for everyone it's very essential, is to have millets in the form of khameer or fermented porridge. So what is this fermented porridge? Millet in any form. You can use atta, you can use suji, you can use millet rice, and to make it, first soak the millet. As I already said, someone asked for a repetition of duration of soaking. If you're using flour, 2 hours. If you're using millet rava, 4 hours. If you're using millet, the entire grain to make rice, 6 to 8 hours. So after soaking, you cook the millet, and after cooking the millet, allow the cooked millet to ferment for around 8 hours. 8 घंटे के लिए cooked millet को छोड़ देना है. किस में छोड़ना है? Inside a मिट्टी की बर्तन, in an earthen pot. Very important is earthen pot, because the pores which are there in the pot allow for good aeration. The microbes need oxygen to grow. So if you put it in an earthen pot, nice oxygenation happens and the good bacteria will grow well. Consuming this fermented porridge on a regular basis will give you very good immunity, will give you very good boost in your health. So because you will start absorbing all the nutrients well, all the microbial imbalance will get set right initially, and then comes all the other kinds of imbalances. So first, if you have never had millets before and are starting off with millets, start by having at least 1 glass of millet khameer on a daily basis. You can have it as your breakfast, you can have it as your dinner, your wish. One meal start with millet khameer. Then you can start making different kinds of dishes in with millets and having. सब कुछ बना सकते हैं. Whatever you are used to having, it can be roti, it can be paratha, it can be idli, it can be dosa, rice, whatever it is, all these dishes can be made using millets with a small variation in the recipes you might require, but as you get used to, everything can be made. But to start off with, the easiest to prepare with millets and the best form to consume it for your health would be to make millet khameer. Then slowly and steadily you can shift all your meals to millet. So this is the a very good question which was posed, and that would be my answer. And for children, we suggest starting millets from the age of 6 months. You can introduce millets into their diet. Up till 6 months, we suggest nothing but mother's milk for the babies, and at 6 months you can start giving millets. And we ask you to start with little millet. Little millet is the easiest to digest. So first month, 6th to 7th month, we suggest giving little millet porridge for the babies. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, someone is asking me a question on what about coffee and tea. So we are all addicted to coffee and tea. I specifically am using the word addicted. It's not a habit, it's an addiction. So caffeine, which is present in coffee and tea, is very similar to nicotine, which is present in cigarettes or any other addictive substance. So it's an alkaloid which makes us want to have it more and more, which makes us become dependent on it. So one day if we have it, the next day we feel or crave for it. So it is an addictive substance. So what happens when we have, so let me break it down. Coffee or tea has mainly 3 elements. The first, I'm speaking about the actual caffeine which is present. Even tea has caffeine, coffee has caffeine. This is the addictive alkaloid in it. And why do we feel fresh when we have coffee or tea? The immediate effect of this caffeine in the body is it stimulates our nerves. That is the primary action. So you feel nice, fresh, refreshed as soon as you have coffee or tea. So how long does this effect last? It lasts for 1 hour, 2 hours only. This is the primary action where it stimulates your nerves. What is the secondary action of this caffeine? Exact opposite. So the first action is stimulating the nerves. The secondary action is that it depresses your nerves. That is why after 2 months, if you continuously have coffee or tea and one day you suddenly don't have it, you feel very low on energy. You feel that there is something missing for you. So this is because of the addictive property and the secondary effect of the caffeine in your body. So as a prolonged effect, the secondary effects become more and more pronounced than the primary effect in your body, and it leads to nerve debility. So a lot of people of late suffering the Parkinson's increasing in nature, prostate related issues increasing in nature, bowel control, bladder control issues. At the age of 40, 50, we are seeing a lot of women, men having urine urgency. मतलब एकदम जाना है, बस एक ही मिनट के अंदर यूरिन आया तो जाना है, नहीं तो few drops will escape. You cannot control your bladder. All these issues are an effect of nerve debility happening inside your body. Someone was saying diabetic neuropathy, the nerves becoming weak. So all these are happening mainly because of excessive usage of coffee and tea. So that being the first element in coffee, tea, the next is again, what do we add in it? Milk. So milk, I was saying already, I mentioned, is responsible for creating the hormone imbalance inside our body, giving lot of steroid injections, growth hormones to the cows to produce more milk. Those hormones entering our body from a very young age. Sex hormones are supposed to come in our body after puberty, 14, 15 years. But we are introducing it from young babies, so we are giving these hormones. So lot of hormone imbalance happening because of the milk, which we stop after the age. As soon as children grow up, we stop giving milk. Instead, we're having coffee or tea, which has the same milk and the same effect. The third thing which goes into making coffee or tea is sugar. So I spoke about rice and wheat causing glucose imbalance, but sugar, I think everyone knows that it is a substance which is not at all good for us. Sugar. So let me ask a question like, we need 2 to 4 liters of water to be healthy. Everyone knows this. So how much sugar do we need to be healthy? What is the daily requirement of sugar? So the answer is 0. So sugar is not a substance which we require at all. But unfortunately, we are producing tons and tons and tons of sugarcane on a yearly basis. We compete. Karnataka is a second or third leading producer of sugarcane. UP is the first producer of sugarcane. Maharashtra and Karnataka keep competing. So why are we producing so much sugarcane? To make either sugar or alcohol, both of which are substances which we absolutely do not require, which are harming our health. The answer again is the background which we spoke earlier. Sugarcane is a water intensive crop, so it is being promoted so much, though the end product is something which we do not need. So even if you take 4 grams of sugar per day, you can still be healthy. What you require is 0. 4 is the maximum you can use to be healthy. But how much are we taking? On a daily basis, average consumption of sugar per human is 100 to 150 grams. So people ask, why did I get diabetes? Why did I get hypertension? Why did I get this disease? Oh, it must be hereditary. It must be something which I did, something like that. But no, nothing other reason is required. Just coffee, tea is sufficient to get all these diseases, because per cup of tea or coffee we have 4 to 5 grams. So 1 cup itself you have crossed your daily limit of sugar. Along with that, we are repeating it 3 to 4 times a day. Coffee, tea we are consuming. Along with that, 1 gulab jamun, along with that biscuits, along with that some bakery products. So all these put together, we are having 100 to 150 grams of sugar. And actually the question should be, how is it that our body is still sustaining in spite of consuming so much of a substance which we shouldn't be consuming on a day-to-day basis? Our poor body is trying to compensate so much and is finally giving up at 30-40 years and becoming diseased. Okay, so that would be the answer. So coffee, tea are not habits, they have become addictions to us, which are causing problems in multiple ways. So once I say this, it becomes my responsibility to give you an alternative. See, I can just point out the problem and tell you, okay, don't have it at all. So what is the alternative? And the simple answer to this would be, we don't need to look very far. Again, we need to look at our practices which were happening in our country from ages together, which were pro-health in nature, pro-environment in nature. So what is this? It is the tradition of having kadha. So kadhas have been in our culture from years together, and each kind of plant which was available around us, of late plants itself are disappearing. We need to bring back the culture of growing a few medicinal plants around us, which, and by when as soon as I say kadha, our face does not need to become like, oh, it's bitter. There are so many leaf decoctions which are very tasty and equally healthy. For example, let me just give you a few examples. Lemongrass is very flavorful, very easy to grow. Pot mein hi you can easily grow how much you require. It is very good for our heart health and for strengthening the nerves. And of course, it boosts our immunity. Pudina, mint leaves, easily available to everyone. Very good for the digestive related complaints, very good for respiratory problems. So you can go on looking around you to find so many tasty and healthy decoctions which we can use in rotation on a daily basis to be healthy instead of coffee and tea. So we have, again, like rice and wheat, we stick to only a few things. That is the problem. We need to spread out and look for more variety around us. God has given umpteen number of healthy things around us. We have just closed our eyes and become blind to all these things. Look into our scriptures, the knowledge passed on from generation to generation. You will find a lot of healthy changes which you can easily make in your lifestyle. Yes, any other questions?
Ma'am, there was a question about the irritable bowel syndrome.
Yes. So irritable bowels, two main things which trigger irritable bowel disease is gluten. Gluten, which is present mainly in wheat, which we are consuming daily. This protein is responsible for the irritation of the bowels. And milk. Lot of people who are intolerant to milk manifest it as irritable bowels. So the first thing you need is, as I mentioned, good probiotic colony inside the intestine. So start off by using millet khameer regularly. You will easily be able to set right this irritable bowels. Few kadha which can help with IBS is methi seed decoction is very good. Pongemia pinnata, it's called karanj in Hindi. Karanj decoction is also very good for irritable bowels. Then you have mustard seeds. Mustard seeds kadha is also very good for irritable bowel. So these kind of kadhas along with millet diet can surely help you. You need to completely stop gluten, that is wheat and milk. If you stop these two, half of your problem will get solved. Okay, someone is asking about, I see question about oils. So as I said, the refining process of oils where we are getting in the market, which we are getting in the market, has destroyed all the good elements of the oil and has added into it a lot of bad elements which can even cause cancer inside our body. Along with that, we have the problem of adulteration. So one of the main adulterant which we see for our cooking oils, one is animal fat, the leftover fat from the meat industry, which is in the form of dalda or lard, is being mixed into the cooking oils. It's a waste product. It's a byproduct which has to be disposed of in some way. So how are they disposing it? They are mixing it into the cooking oils, or using only dalda or fat. Especially when you go to restaurants, when you see the bakeries, they find that using dalda lard makes their products much more tasty for one thing, and is much cheaper for them rather than buying cooking oils. So this waste product from the meat industry, which has lot of toxins concentrated in it, which has the bad kind of fat in it, is entering our body through the oils. That is another problem with the oils. And the another adulterant is the mineral oil. So in the petroleum industry, when they remove crude oil from the land, it is refined and petrol gets separated at one level and diesel is separated at another level. Lower level kerosene is separated, and similarly we have plain mineral oil at the lowest level. So for every liter of petrol which we are using, there is almost a liter of mineral oil which is being made as a waste product while refining petrol and diesel. So what do they do with this leftover waste product mineral oil? It is colorless, it is tasteless. So to this, our science has progressed so much that we can add one drop of a chemical and this becomes like groundnut oil. We add another chemical, this mineral oil appears like, tastes like, smells like sunflower oil. Or a drop of another chemical, the same mineral oil will now look like, taste like olive oil. So we are thinking we are using olive oil, which is very good for us, but actually half of it might be actually mineral oil, which has been chemical added to make it look or taste like olive oil or sunflower oil. So again, having said these as the problem with the current available market oils, what is the solution? Again, very simple solution. What was the way in 60-70 years back the villages used to extract cooking oils? Oils are very important for us. It's a misconception that oils are bad for us. Not all oils are bad for us. We do require fat in our food. It is what gives, as I was saying, taste element in our food is present only when there is some amount of fat in it. But that needs to be the right kind of fat and the good kind of oils being used to prepare our food. So what was the way we used to extract these oils? We used to extract them by bull-driven Ghanis. And even today, if we go back to this method of extracting oils, where a bull, one or two bulls, usually they are used in pairs, two bulls rotating slowly around the ghani, wooden ghani, where the oil seeds are put, slowly and steadily, oil coming out without excessive pressure, without excessive temperature. So if high pressure and high temperature are not used, free radicals are not generated in the oils, and all the essential nutrients which are originally present in the oil is retained. So this is the best method for extracting oils. Of late, what has happened? They're using machines and rotating the ghanis. So even if it's a wooden ghani, if you use a motor to make it rotate to extract the oil, pressure and temperature is too high. The rotation per minute cannot be brought down below 20 if you're using a machine. So machine driven oils are better than the available market oils, but the best kind of oil would be oil extracted by bull driven ghanis. Slow and steady, minimum pressure and no rise in temperature. This is what is important while extracting oil. Any kind of oil extracted in this way, there is no one best oil. There's nothing like that. As I've been trying to say, the more variety that we use, the better it is for us. So it can be sarson ka tel extracted in this way. It might be safflower oil extracted in this way. It might be coconut oil extracted in this way. Any oil which is extracted, the process of extraction is what is important. And you use more and more varieties of oils depending on what you're cooking, then you can be healthy. Especially for growing children, oils are very, very important. So we suggest, especially if you have any nerve related complaints. So in our body, the brain is made up of fat. So if you do not have good quality of fat while growing up, brain development does not happen in a proper way. So especially for growing children, using these ghani oils is very, very essential for the brain development, for the nerves to develop properly. And again, in old age, as I was mentioning, where the nerve degeneration is happening very fast. To repair these nerves also, you require good quality ghani oil. So we suggest to use that. So someone is asking, how about Desi Ghee? So if you are able to make good quality Desi Ghee at home, then it is okay to be used. But if you're again buying it from the market, unless you are buying it from a trusted person, then again it's doubtful whether it's actually Desi ghee or not. And another important thing is that it is usually packed in plastic bottles. So I have not spoken about plastic, but let me just mention that we are consuming nanoparticles of plastic on a day-to-day basis, be it water in plastic water bottles, be it oils or ghee in plastic bottles, be it our parcel boxes which are all plastic, be it our lunch boxes which used to be steel, now or even that we have made it plastic. So these nanoparticles of plastic, even if you're using food grade plastic, few nanoparticles are entering your body on a day-to-day basis. And all this plastic, we know that plastic is not biodegradable. So what happens to this plastic? Plastic starts getting deposited inside our intestine, and it prevents absorption from happening. We are not able to absorb nutrients. One reason I mentioned was there are no microbes. Second reason is our intestine is being coated with a layer of plastic, nanoparticles of plastic. So because of this, a lot of side effects which are happening in our body. One main effect is hair fall. Everyone facing the issue of hair fall. Men becoming bald by 30, 35, losing their hair. I keep joking. Initially, boys used to postpone. Let us tell their parents, don't get us married soon. Let me get settled. Let me have a good job. Let me be having a good salary. Then I will get married. But nowadays, it seems boys are asking their parents, Jaldi shadi kar do, before I lose all my hair. I want to get married. So this is just uh, a nice way of looking at it, but unfortunately men, women, all are losing their hair. So for hair health we require a lot of micronutrients in minute quantities, but of late, because excessive use of plastic happening, our entire gut being coated with plastic, we are not absorbing these micronutrients like selenium, like zinc, like molybdenum, these which are necessary for good hair quality. So we need to avoid using plastic. So the question about Desi ghee, if you are able to make it at home, well and good, you can use it. It is also good for you along with Ghani oils. It's not necessary to completely remove oil, cooking oils altogether and use only Desi ghee. That is not advisable. You can use Ghani oils and occasionally use Desi ghee, especially for children. It is good. But again, if you're buying it in plastic, I wouldn't suggest using it. Yes. Any other questions? So I saw a question about availability. So I can say that as and when our demand increases, so if we wish for something, if we constantly search for something, it will soon be available to us. When we started our millet journey 20 years back, only foxtail millet was available, and that was being used as food for birds. Bird food, they were selling it along with stones, along with dust not cleaned, along with all the seed itself was being sold. So we started bringing that, cleaning it, processing it at home, dehusking it, and then making rice and eating. But now 20 years later, there are umpteen number of outlets which are selling clean, ready to use millets for people. So as and when people become aware and people start asking for the right food. See, now you have strawberry ice cream which was made in some other country being available in the most remote village in India. So as and when we ask for substances, if there's a demand, it will be produced and it will be procured. Now we are in the transition stage where these substances are not easily available to everyone. But if we constantly keep putting efforts, if we constantly keep asking for it, Ghanis will come up in villages. If we say we are ready to buy Ghani oil, there will be people who will put up Ghanis. It is actually giving employment to the villagers. If we say we will eat millets, there are so many farmers who are not able to grow anything because they don't have water, but they can easily grow millets. So if we buy from them, they will also get a livelihood. So as the demand increases, it will be more and more easily available. And you and me are those who are in this journey and have to create the demand so that it's more and more easily available for the next generations. Yeah.
Anybody has any question? I'm sure, ma'am, there are so many questions that I mean, you have clarified almost like an eye opener or a mind opener for people, and I'm sure that we'll be hankering after you more and more from now onwards, because so much demand has within the department for your sessions. So
it was a pleasure to speak to all of you. And I would just like to end by saying that a lot of information is easily available. I will share PDF with sir. Book in Hindi is available having all this information so that you can slowly go through it, which disease, which kind of kadhas are good, which kind of millets you should use more. All this has been clearly put into literature. I will share it with all of you so that there is less confusion, less your doubts are cleared more easily. And about the cooking aspect, as sir was saying, for the younger generation especially, unless it's tasty, whatever we know, however good it is for us, unless it's tasty, we will not continue to use it. We will use it 1 day, 2 days and stop. So there's a channel which I have been trying to put together recipes called Millet Magic. You can have a lot of regular recipes, including charts, including paratha, including idli, dosa, how to easily make it with millets, a few tips and tricks. So you can please refer to the channel to have easy cooking with millets. So that I know that personally, I know that unless I find it tasty, I'm not going to continue with it, however good I know it is. So it's important to enjoy your food also, not just have healthy food and have it forcefully that it is boring. So how to make millets interesting and tasty is what the channel is about. So please refer to Millet Magic for recipes.
Ma'am, thank you so much for having been with us. And of course, we will also strongly recommend Millet Magic YouTube channel for all our participants, for all income tax employees. Millet Magic should be a regularly visited channel, a regularly subscribed channel, and bell pressed channel. And you must all go there and listen and see the recipes, how they are being cooked, so that they are made very, very tasty. And once you start making those recipes, it will be very easy to adopt millets. After all, for thousands of years in our country, they have been adopted. It is our country which has taught the magic of millets to the world. And so therefore, we can't afford to forget it, lest we may hamper our health in a very bad way. So with those words, expressing deep gratitude for having found time for us, and hoping that we have much more from you even for the future.
Sure.
And of course, thanking your father, Mr. Khadar Wali, who's the doyen of Millet Magic for the country. We'll strongly recommend participants to go and search for Dr. Khadar Wali and Dr. Sarala and Millet Magic on YouTube and on Google. There is so much, and of course, some material that ma'am will be sharing with us, will be sharing with all of you on the group, so that you can go through that literature. It's very, very useful for particular problems also that you are facing. That the beauty of the proportions in which you can take millets from time to time to solve all your problems related to health. And I would also like to add here, ma'am, that perhaps what you are focusing on is Sri Dhanya millets. So Sri Dhanya millets, from what I gather, they are medicinal in value. They are not just food. They are a medicinal in value, means they will solve your disease problems. The normal mota anaj may ensure that you won't have any problems, but these Sri Dhanya millets will solve existing problems also.
Exactly.
And will solve the possibility of having any problems in the later future also.
Okay.
So thank you so much, deeply ingratiated with your session, and we'll come back to our participants and to you, ma'am. From NADT, the regional campus of the Income Tax Department, we thank you all who have been present today with us. Thank you so much.
Nice. Good day. Good day to everyone.
Thank you.